On today's episode, we talk about the future of real estate. And let me give you a quick tip. The future of real estate is creating a better experience for both the buyer and the seller. Those who leverage the most cutting edge technology out there in order to do that, so that they can connect more deeply with clients and create a better experience for them, are going to have not only successful businesses, but they're also going to enjoy the freedom of having a significant life, which, as you know, is the entire theme and purpose of this show. Today, we have a very special guest who's going to share with us his perspective on what that future looks like that does create that experience for the clients. And in the end, the kind of business and life that you want. Stay with us. This is going to be a great episode. So the big question is this: how do those of us in the real estate industry who have crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we create success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard. This is my co-host, Stephanie Peck. And together, we bring you the Think Bigger Real Estate Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Excited to be here today. We have a very special episode and a very, very wonderful guest, someone who's become a dear friend of mine, somebody who is building incredible technology and is really positioning himself to be a thought leader. He has positioned himself as being a thought leader in the industry. Please help me welcome, first and foremost, my lovely co-host, Stephanie Peck. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I am so excited for today because we are talking about something that real estate agents are a little bit afraid of, a little bit intimidated by, and we're going to change your thinking around that today.
I love it. And please, again, help me welcome our very special guest, Eric Post. What's up, Eric? Good.
What's up, guys? And Stevie, it was so great to spend some time with you two up in Seattle at that event.
Thank you.
A month or so back. It was time went by fast, but that was a really great time to spend some time up there. So good to see you guys both.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well. We appreciate you coming on. We've admired the way that you look at the real estate space and what you've been building for a long time. And this episode on what the future of real estate looks like, I can't think of anybody else that I'd want to have their perspective on this. So let's jump right in, Eric. Before I do that, let's share a little background. So anybody that is just meeting you for the first time, you've been in the real estate industry for 20 years, right? As a broker, as a brokerage owner, as an investor, not just in real estate businesses, but in businesses in general. And now you've gone deep into AI, and that actually built a cutting edge tool. So for those who don't know Eric, that's his background. And also served our country as a Marine. We thank you for your service, especially this week in which we're all celebrating our freedoms. So our hats go off to you.
What a great week this is, right? Thank you, man.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So let's dive into this. Eric, what do you think the future of real estate entails that allows not only for people to have a great experience, but also for the brokers, right? Those who are leading these agents to also have a great life. What does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I love that you threw the great life part in there. I was originally going to ask you what perspective we want to look at, when you said, about the future of real estate. And one of the things I found interesting when you go online and you go to either real estate influencer pages or agents making posts about the industry or whatnot, and you can see the clear line in the comment section between the agents commenting and mortgage brokers commenting and the consumers commenting, right? There is not a gray area there. There is a clear line between the two, both in the NAR lawsuit headlines or individual pages or commentary happening about what's happening in the real estate space. There is a clear line. And I think that what a great opportunity we have as an industry to look at that clear line and say, why is there a gap here between the comments that are supportive of the post and the comments that aren't supportive of a post? And they're generally divided by what perspective there is. It a client or is it an agent, right? And so right now, one of the things that I think that is really a good opportunity for us to inject in this space is some self-awareness. A little bit of what are the things that we talk about online or say online or think about internally? How do we know what we mean to each other, but how does that get translated to the consumer when they see these posts and videos and us talking about, oh, you'd be crazy to use an agent if they only charge you this percent? All that stuff is confusing for the consumer. And so just right now, I think that if we're looking at the future, I think there needs to be some galvanization of what this industry actually is. Like what are we? Are we a group of agents that protect our clients, represent them? Are we facilitators? right? What are we, right, at our core? And I think that is a interesting thing to start to recognize and realize that we're not just talking about AI powered competitors and AI powered tech companies and Zillow and all these new companies. We're talking about an AI powered consumer too. We're talking about a more informed, more educated, more empowered, frictionless, access to information consumer than ever before, right? So these are all just the kind of trends that I think that, like, right now we have a pause. Like, let's have real conversations around these, and take a direction. Pick one.
Boy, powerful perspective, right? When you really begin to kind of put the guards down of like everyone's in their own camp trying to defend themselves, whether you're a consumer, right? Trying to quote unquote, defend your equity, or as an agent trying to defend your commissions, right? It feels like there's different camps people are coming from. And when you stop to realize like all of this technology can be really positioned to help consumers have a great experience, have a great ROI on that experience, and the agent also to have a great business leading people through these changes. Stephanie, what comes to mind as you hear Eric talk about kind of this important process of potentially establishing our identity as professionals? What shows up for you?
Yeah, what I hear from Eric is he's talking about there's possibly going to be different levels of service. Is it like he's saying, find your identity? Are you a full service advisor to your clients? Are you a facilitator in a transaction? It's possible that the industry is going to go to a place where the consumer chooses a different level of service. So as the professional, you're going to choose how you show up in the marketplace. And by doing that, you're going to need to be at the top of your game in all areas if you want to be at the highest level of service and the highest paid in the industry.
And what you just said was the choose. Like, there was an intentionality to your answer. There was an intentionality of the approach to it. And that is something that has been missing for a little bit. It's like, oh, we've always done it. We've just done it. These are the things that we do. We have this type of agent website. We have this type of coaching. We've just done it, and yet we see this division of what the consumer is demanding. Like, they're literally asking and begging, like, oh my gosh, I would love this value. I love this wisdom. I'd love to clear out this noise. I'd love to have this sort of access, right? And the customer is not always right in that sense. You can go back to Henry Ford. If I would have asked my customer what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, right? Like, there are times when an industry or a thought leader or an agent in this case can take a position of leadership and say, no, this is the direction we should go, and plant a flag and lead there. But if that doesn't come with any sort of gratitude for the customer, empathy for the customer, appreciation for the customer, focus on their experience, then we're just self-serving, right? And so that sort of, when we talk about technology, there's a lot of companies that are just going direct to consumer. They want to avoid the realtor or the mortgage broker. They want to go direct to consumer. Like Zillow's reference, the agent is the last mile problem, in the transaction. It's like they want to take the human as much out of it and get all this data and put it right in the hands of the consumer. That's not my approach or Huzi's approach at all. Like, if I really want to make a home buying and selling experience better for the customer, then there's people involved always, that can really help that happen. So instead of going around the industry, I was like, no, we're going to serve the real estate agent, the mortgage professional in this case, and really help them provide. How can we expect an agent to provide a more consistent, transparent, efficient transaction unless we are providing them the ability to do so, right? That's unfair, right? So we really, like, for me, it's those three things specifically. It's consistency, transparency, and efficiency, right? Those are three glaring opportunities that we have as an industry to get a little better, in elevator game. Maybe we use technology or strategies or systems for that. But those are three things that I think that as a consumer, if we got better on those three things alone, our perceived value would just skyrocket.
One thing I love about what both of you said, I'll start with what Stephanie said, and I've heard her say this before, and I'm realizing the maturity in it is that so many agents fall into the trap of who moved my cheese. And you kind of referenced this as well, Eric, right? Is like, well, we've always done this, and therefore I'm going to die on this hill that we're always going to do this. And I think that's a really professionally immature way to go about things, and one that will ensure that you get less cheese than you ever wanted to have, right? And I think when you really become flexible to say, what is the opportunity now? How can I best serve my clientele now based on the current circumstances? You really open yourself up to tremendous opportunity, because at the end of the day, we are here to serve the consumer. And then, I think the other perspective that we look at, right, is as professionals, we always have to run it through that lens of what is it that the profession or that the consumer wants and needs. And, if we were dealing with something that had no emotional tie to it and everybody knew what they wanted completely entirely and understood all the ramifications of those decisions, one might argue that, yeah, we could probably take the consumer out of this, like buying a pair of shoes online. I just need to try them on and then I'm good. But the reality is, when something that is as big of a purchase and as important of a purchase and has the emotional ties as where someone's going to live and the community in which they are going to be integrated into, people have a hard time making decisions in small things, let alone in big things. And to think that they don't need a human to help them, to counsel with them and extract from them what they're thinking, why they're thinking that way, why they're feeling that way, and then lead them using the best technology to make a good decision. To me, that part is really hard to duplicate without a human, because humans understand that level of emotion, and they've dealt with enough people going through those decisions and those emotions that they can really become very valuable to helping to someone gather their thoughts and make sense of their emotions and their thoughts and all the things that go through buying a new home, right?
Well, to be clear, AI is actually very good at sentiment analysis. It's better at emotional awareness than most people, right? So you're right. And I say these things, and I should preface all this by saying this industry does not need AI. It needs more good people. It does not need more information. It needs more wisdom, right? So this is not me being pro AI in any sense of the word. Practicality, though, AI helps give access to information. And if all the information is commoditized, then that's no longer valuable. It's the wisdom, right? Well, who has all the wisdom? People, right? So like all these systems, the AI systems have all this intellect, and they could pass every real estate exam much better than almost every agent. It knows every line on every contract. It knows way more than every single agent right now. But that's not enough, right? It doesn't have the humanity. It doesn't have the experience. It doesn't know that, okay, Justin and Stephanie are this couple here, and they really need to make this happen for their son because their son is experiencing this school and this school, right? They don't get all those. That the AI doesn't know all that stuff that people do. So I just want to be very, very clear, though, the things that you mentioned are actually pretty good, like sentiment analysis and emotional awareness. AI is actually really good at those things. So if you know that and you lean into it instead of avoiding it, then it makes you the superhero, the superpower, because you can use AI to extract even more, and you get better at emotional awareness, better at the human part of it too, if you do leverage AI, right? So just be clear about that.
Yeah, super powerful. Stephanie, what's showing up for you as you think about the future of your business, right? Being as flexible and open-minded as you are, when you hear some of the things that Eric is sharing about AI, what does that do to empower you to be able to create even a more powerful experience than you already do?
One thing that I have been thinking really hard about in my business. So I'm just going to ask a question selfishly. And I know that to me as a top producer, if I'm experiencing this, then there's probably people in our audience that are experiencing this too. Even as a top producer, where I do believe that I'm one of the best in my marketplace, and I'm not shy to proclaim that. I'm still getting feedback from clients when I go on listing appointments, in particular, where I give my presentation and they say, this is great. And I have no doubt that you or these other 2 or 3 people that I interviewed are going to do just as good of a job. So what's something that a real estate agent like me, or anyone that's listening to this, can be putting into place that's really going to set ourselves apart? What's something that we can be doing that is going to take that consumer experience and have them be like, I did not get this from anyone else. You are the only one that presented me with these options or this information. So the choice becomes obvious that I'm the real estate agent that is doing more than anyone else that they talked with.
So what you talked about here is one of the fundamental strategies that actually positioned Huzi from the very beginning. And that is when ChatGPT rolled out, every agent ran to ChatGPT and said, create my social media for me, write my listing descriptions, create my blog post. And it was this use of a technology to spam the masses with a bunch of information as much as possible. Then all listing descriptions started looking the same, and social media posts started looking the same. And so right away, just as a contrarian or a challenger viewpoint, just by nature, I was like, oh, well, then AI should be used to create more custom and personalized, valuable information for the individual, not for the masses. So long-winded answer to you is that with the ability to get access to information, write hyper-personalized content for your consumer, you could show up to a meeting and their experience with you is so thoughtful because you could get, so for instance, let's say that you're a seller and you're listing a house up in Oregon City, is in a particular neighborhood. I can, like with Huzi, I can be like, hey, Huzi, I'm going to go on a listing presentation up in this neighborhood in this area. I want to know every information about all of the schools, the detailed report, anything going on with the taxes, the jurisdiction, anything going on with bond measures, like whatever you want. And you could get it like this, where it used to take a couple of hours to have to do that sort of work, to have that kind of like really intentionally personalized presentation. It's not just a generic that you stamped a new address on it, you know, and did your thing. But of such a hyper personalized experience where you can do that now at scale, that makes you stand out, right? That makes you instantly, they're like, oh my gosh, this person got me. And they give me this information that I didn't even thought that I needed, but they knew I needed it and they gave it to me when I needed it, right? That before took a lot of lift for an agent. It took a lot of strategizing, a lot of work, hiring it out, whatnot. Now it just takes curiosity. Now it just takes a willingness to serve at that level, to think about that. Then you can get it to it instantly, right? So that's I would say that was the one first answer that came to mind.
I really like that because I apply that to situations that I've been in the last couple of weeks. And so you mentioned it would take several hours. I feel like it takes a lifetime to really understand the community and the consumer and that street specifically, or that type of home specifically. That's that wisdom that you were talking about, right? So there's no amount of research that I could have done to get that information. But if I were utilizing technology to produce that for me and showed up with that, because in two situations that come to mind, I mean, I recently lost out on a listing because they went with someone who was more local, even said your presentation, your marketing, everything about you is superior. However, this person has more local connection. And then on the flip side, I just got a listing because they said, you know, you're local, you understand this community and these people. So if I had come with a lot of information about that, probably on both sides, I would have won the listing, but then also the one that I did get, it would have made it a lot easier for me to bring proof of that, right? I spent a lot of time talking about, oh, I live down the street and my kids go to this school and the things that we do to build rapport. I could have come with a really impressive presentation that shows that I am the expert.
In that example, when I hear a customer said that to you, they actually didn't care about locality or geographic location. They cared about the personalization of it. And so, you know, a lot of times we get objection from the customer, and that's the symptom of the objection. That's not the objection, right? So in my guess, they didn't care actually about the hyper locality of your you know, brand positioning. They cared about the personalization to their exact scenario, that they wanted something that understood this market, this neighborhood, this scenario, right? And you can do that now with the assistance of AI. And so coming in there is like, you are so polished and professional, and you got a great resume, been around a long time, plenty of reviews. Like, I know you got your scripts down, right? But it was that last checkbox of hyper personalized that the AI can help you do now, Stephanie, right? At scale. Which is pretty special, right? But you have to have that sort of desire and to treat people not as a number, not as another listing presentation, but as human beings in this house making a big lifetime decision, you know, to move forward. And when we frame things from the consumer standpoint, like I love it when agents have recently sold or moved personally, right? When they've sold their own house and moved personally, they get this level of empathy of like what it's like to pack up their boxes and have people in their homes viewing their homes and having to pick up all the. That level of empathy is lost sometimes. And we think of our job as a job, and we have this structure and we have this process. And so all of the human emotions that come up, you know, are all the things that I think that human beings can do a better job than any AI systems. So you can use the AI systems to do the mundane, take it from this to this. And if you do the mundane in much less time, then you can focus on the things that really matter. Right. And that is in this human relationship building, this personalization, really listening, you know, and proactive listening, digging deeper underneath their concerns. You can't do that when you're bothered by all the minutia of all the stuff that you got to do, right? So you can have an AI system handle all the stuff that you can kind of do, The other example, I'm going to ramble on just a little bit more, Boz. The other thing, like with the agents, same thing. Agents don't generally walk into their manager's office and be like, you know what? I want the headache of hiring an assistant and, paying them and being accountable and doing 30-day, reviews and all this stuff and taking on. No, they want more time in the day, and they want the client to feel like there's two of them, right? That's what they're really saying when they think, oh, I need this leverage. So with AI, it's not like you're having to delegate and think about how to delegate. With AI, you should be able to just say, this is my task list. These are things I know I need done. I can just get some of that time back done because AI can do it faster than I could on my own. Right. So that's the better application, I think, right now, is not think of AI as things you delegate to, you prompt engineer. It's more of a support system to help me look like the superhero to my client and make my clients feel like there are two of me.
As I hear you two talk, it's really fun for me, by the way. I feel like I'm just in the room with two very, very intelligent people who are extremely experienced in the real estate industry. I just get to be a fly on the wall. This is fascinating. I'm actually really enjoying being a listener, but I do have a couple of things to say really quickly. Is a comment that you made earlier on, Eric, which is that wisdom is what we as humans have. I was taught early in my college years, actually by the university president, who to this day is a tremendous mentor of mine. He said that knowledge is what you know, and wisdom is using what you know for good and righteous purposes. And I think about what AI can give us is all kinds of knowledge. But when we then take that knowledge and we apply it to better people's lives, that's where we stand out, right? That's where we become very unique, and we're equipped in an instant, as you said, with all this knowledge. And now we get to apply it to the people of what matters to them. What are they going through? What are their aspirations? What are their fears? And we're able to apply that in a very human, warm way. I can't help but think that agents who learn how to do that and have the tools behind them that empower them to not only be able to access that data, but free up their schedule from all of the things that kept them from being able to do that previously, right? Everybody wants to be that human, but it's like when I've got so many other things to do, I might not have the time to stop and listen and ask more questions because I got to get back. I've got a whole desk full of work for me. And what I see is tools like Huzi that actually free you up from doing those mundane tasks so that we can spend more time being that warm, wise human that people really want and really need.
I think of wisdom slightly different than that. I like the definition a lot. I think of wisdom more as an embodiment, meaning you guys have interviewed enough people now. You know when somebody's on your podcast and they're spouting sound bites, and clips and cliches versus somebody that's speaking from an embodiment of expertise from whatever the topic is. You can just tell, right? So I view wisdom as this embodiment, and it's almost like a curation. So I look at Huzi as the same way. And I think if I could define it the same way, like if you take a big chunk of marble, right, and you have this thing, wisdom is what do you chisel out? Like, what do you remove to reveal the beautiful thing? That's wisdom. Right. And so when we're talking about all this knowledge, well, wisdom is what don't the client need to know to get them to the next level? Like, what's the very specific thing? Let's curate that. Right. Because you just know, the client, the space, the goal, you can see things in 3-dimensional. That's wisdom. Right. Because you've intentionally immersed yourself in this profession, in this industry. Right. That then you embody it. Then you know what to chisel away just to make it simple. Like a good meme isn't 5 pages long. A good meme is one sentence on a thing. It pierces right to the heart of it. That's wisdom. So to me, wisdom is the embodiment of the expertise, and then being able to have enough exposure to enough macro data that you know exactly what doesn't matter, so you can just get the right thing to the right person at the right time. Right. That to me is wisdom.
I love that. Stephanie, you obviously serve a tremendous quantity of households, you and your team, and you do it at an extremely high level because you get referrals all the time, right? People just saying she is the only option. As you hear us talk about this concept of wisdom and going deeper at this level, there's no way you would have gotten to the level of referral-based business that you had you not already embodied some of this. But does this excite you? And if so, talk to us a little bit about that. When you think of removing more of the things that don't matter and inserting in more of these types of conversations that really move the needle in people's lives, Again, going back to the theme of what this is all about, right? Think Bigger is building successful businesses and significant lives. How does this kind of light up your soul to be thinking about the future of business in the way that we're describing here today?
Well, I know that a lot of people have fears and concerns and hesitations around AI, that it's going to replace us or take our jobs or be smarter than us. Like Eric mentioned, AI can probably pass the real estate exam a lot better than any of us ever did.
No,
Can
no,
probably
probably.
find
100%.
not probably, definitely find
Yeah.
data that we don't know or couldn't find, but it can't replace the human experience. So I hear this all the time, and I just want to rephrase and say that AI is not going to replace the real estate agent. It is going to replace the real estate agent that doesn't use AI. So that real estate agent that's using technology and using tools and resources is going to be the one that sets themselves apart, because they're able to enhance the client experience and enhance their presentation, enhance the value that they bring to the consumer. And the one that's still doing it the way we've always done is going to be the one that gets left behind, because the consumer is going to demand a different level of service and experience. And what I've learned about AI is you have to tell AI what to give you. So I can't just go open my Huzi app and say, help me get this listing. It's not going to give me the information that I need. I have to tell AI, yeah, okay, maybe you can show me more. But I know what I've learned about AI prompts is I'm going to need to give it some information so that it can give me information back. And the better I do that, the more I'm going to get and the better the information is. So if I say, I'm going on a listing appointment in this neighborhood with this type of client, they're this age and this is what I know about them, and I give AI these prompts, I'm going to get a more personalized response that is going to set me apart. Versus, maybe I could, say I'm going to a listing appointment on 123 Main Street, but I believe that the more information that I give, the better I'm going to get back. So it still does require my knowledge, my wisdom, my expertise to get what I need back, right?
Not for long, a little bit. And so what you're speaking about is exactly the way everybody's talking about it and exactly what the message has been. That's actually dated news. And what I mean by that is, in classes now, what I've been talking about with agents is that there's just a division. Either you become an AI kind of expert at prompt engineering, extracting, and mastery of the English language or Chinese or Spanish, whatever language you speak. Because if you understand your language, that's how we're going to be interacting with AI models. So the better you understand how to phrase a question and how to properly, break down a business problem, all that kind of stuff, you either need to be good at that or use a purpose-built AI, right? One of the two. Because when you go this direction, like with ChatGPT, it's a mind-blowingly powerful consumer-facing product, but it's a do as you ask, not a do as you want machine. And that's very critical, because like agents like, I just want this done, but the AI is doing what you ask it, not what you want necessarily. So like with Huzi, when you have a purpose-built platform, you should be able to do two things: know what the user wants and being able to know what they actually need, right? Like on top of all those things, like there's a want and there's a need in business, and a purpose-built app can actually act as an assistant, as a coach at the same time, right? So what we're doing at Huzi is to build in almost being like a translator. And instead of having an agent having to learn another new freaking skill, like agents had to learn how to be social media influencers, right? And learn how to be marriage counselors and all these things that you got to learn how to do, and marketers, and like to learn another new thing in AI. Come on, that's a heavy lift for most agents, for all agents actually. So the value that like a company like ours brings is to be that translator. Like if you can just tell yourself what you need done in the day, then Huzi should be able to help you either get 90% of it done, do it all the way, but like provide massive instant momentum. Right? You shouldn't have to also sit down like, okay, how do I write a prompt? And how do I get this idea out of my head and put it on a paper and type it? So what we're building here is just a machine. You just talk like you talk to yourself. Hey, I need to prepare for this listing presentation. What do I need to do first? Like if you can just say that, if you can just get that out of your body, then an AI system that's purpose built, that understands what you need and what you want, that can actually take over, right? And when I say take over, meaning like, hey, Eric, let's do this next. And what about this? And have you thought about this? And like, let's do this next. And it just takes away all the friction between all the agents' best intentions and getting it done, right? So I just think there are two different distinct paths, and that's why you have to have a company or products. And that's why there'll be dentist AIs, Costco AIs, you name it, right? There'll be dating like, Justin, you're happily married and all that kind of stuff. But if you and I weren't, we're out looking for mates, and you're going to send your AI out, I'm going to send out mine, and we might meet somewhere, right? And we're like, oh, we have friends. Like, let's go have coffee together, right? That's the future. And so that's the iteration we're building towards. And so the idea that the user has to become this expert now, I think is old information. I think you should just go to where you have this partner that's translating for you and can make it happen, so you don't have to learn another new freaking skill.
I appreciate that distinction, because that's, I suppose if someone's saying, well, what's the difference? I can go on to ChatGPT and ask a question versus Huzi, a platform that has been trained to think like a real estate agent, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's so powerful, actually. So if we run all sorts of tests, you put in two similar prompts in let's say ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google, Bard, whatever, Claude, and Huzi. And so we view ourselves as being really responsible and taking on the responsibility heavy of what's the output. So there's lots of talks about prompt engineering, like what do I tell the machine to do? Huzi is really in the business of human prompting. Like, I care so much about what comes out of the response. That is it good? Does it lead the agent to great conclusions and great content or great strategies? Or is it just generic? Does it sound milk toast? Could they get this done anywhere else? Right. So we're hyper focused on the quality of the output, like crazy, like obsessed about it.
Fascinating. Let's take just a second and let people know where they can go to learn more about Huzi. I think you've piqued probably every real estate agent who ever listens to this interest. And like, how do I hire that assistant? Because one that not just is super good at doing what I ask it to do would be a win. But what you're telling me is it's going to start telling me what it knows that I'm going to need next, which is the true anticipation of need, which is another level. And I think that's beautiful. So what does it look like to become a Huzi member, Eric?
Yeah, we just put up our our version 1. It's ugly. It's just utilitarian public facing website, but just at Huzi.ai to just get a little more information there. So we've been in testing beta mode for the last 1.5 years, nearly 2 years, and did a soft launch a couple of weeks ago. And piling in new consumers, new members has been awesome to see. We're building a community out. So just go to Huzi.ai. I'll give you an example of what I mean by this power. So an offer came in, on a piece of property that I have personally. Great agent sent over an offer. And I'm not licensed anymore, to be honest. It feels crazy after 22 years to not have a real estate license, because I gave it up. So I didn't have any perceived issues with brand preference or whatever, right? So I can be brand agnostic. I'm not even licensed anymore. But I got this offer coming in, and I was able to receive the offer. Huzi intook the deal, created my deal summary, added everybody to my database, added all the milestones to my calendar, went online, researched because I wanted to counter. So got all my market stats and research, thanked, the other agent, for their offer, the work, let them know I'll have an offer from the next day, communicated with them. And I did all of this in under 5 minutes. The guy called me, he goes, dude, how did you do that so fast? Right? Like, this is an 1.5 hours worth of work, essentially, right? He just felt it. I was like, because it's not about AI, it's about the leverage. And we talk about, you made a comment earlier about you're going to be replaced by AI. It's not the AI, to be clear. It's that AI is harnessed cognitive labor. It would be like, a person, then all of a sudden they had a 100-person team. Of course, it's going to be hard to compete with, in your market, because they can just be more thoughtful and intentional and personalized because they've got all this labor. It's the same. I would look at AI as the same thing. It's not AI. It's cognitive labor that you can harness to do things that you need done in your business, cheap, at scale, right? So just to be really, really clear, I'm not pro AI. I am pro intentionality. I'm pro leverage. I'm pro systems. I'm pro better customer experience. AI is just one of the tools now in the toolbox. It just happens to be probably the most powerful and the most cheap and the cheapest, right? So that's a good combination.
And I love it. Stephanie, before we go to our final question, any last questions you want to ask Eric?
I'm just going to take it for a test drive. I'll have a million questions after that.
I love it. Eric,
we had a roadmap meeting this morning, it's so fun because there's a massive gap, right? To where I know we're going to be in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year from now. But even just now, what we have is just is blowing people away. I did some demos this week and they're like, oh, what, wait, what, you know, and that has been so fun for eyes open and be like, oh my gosh. And it's not the scare thing. It's the lowering of the shoulders and be like, oh my, okay, somebody gets me, right? I don't have to do it all anymore, right? There's there's no fear of like, oh my God, it's going to take my job. It's like, oh my God, thank you. Now I can do the things I want to do as a professional. That's the kind of vibe I want to inject.
That's beautiful. Eric, you're obviously a big thinker. What is it that you do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities?
Ooh, I look for solutions through the lens of something else. Taking on the role of the observer is a skill, and it's something I've had to like work on, right? Because we view a problem and it's really hard to get yourselves out of the way. You know, ourselves, that we have all these biases, all these thinking, you know, logical fallacies that human beings just fall victim to. So kind of learning the skill to take the role of the observer, to know that I can't learn anything else if I'm so full of myself. If I come to all these hard and fast conclusions about things, then my mind doesn't want to explore and wonder. Sadhguru does a good job. He explains how our minds are so powerful. It's not built to come to conclusions. It's built to wonder and explore and be curious. And I don't view all this AI stuff as a technology revolution. It's a creativity revolution. It's the creative people with curiosity are going to win. That is the message I want to get out. And so for me, staying hyper curious about myself, what am I capable of, about what's around the horizon? What don't I know that I'm afraid of? And instead of being afraid of it, can I just take a few minutes to learn more about it? You know, that's sort of just innate empowerment that everybody creates their own economy. They create their own reality. They can create a great customer experience. It doesn't matter if the world's burning down, you know? And so just having that sense of like, I'm a part of so much bigger than me. So let me step out of the role of the observer. Let me learn through the angles of other people or other industries or other solutions, and get out of my own freaking way. And I think that really helps with big thinking, honestly.
Amazing answer. Amazing episode. Thank you so much, Eric, for helping us not only understand a little bit more about Huzi, but really think differently about technology in general. It's been a total delight. And to everybody listening here today, my final request is this. It's time that we all go think bigger. Eric, thanks for helping us do that today, my friend. We appreciate you.
Cheers, you guys. Great work.
Thank you.
Before you go, we've got one more invitation for you. We all know that listening to a podcast is not enough to help you to become a big thinker and high achiever. We must take action. So the very first step, think about one lesson learned from this podcast that you'd like to apply, and send it to us in the form of a direct message at Think Bigger Real Estate. We look forward to hearing from you and helping